Welcome back to the Crash the Pond podcast. It has been almost 2 weeks-ish.
No, just over a week. Just over a week.
When was our last podcast?
Last Wednesday.
What's today, Thursday?
Yeah.
I forgot we did it. I forgot we did it on Wednesday last week.
For anyone that doesn't know, part of the reason that the show is late this week, partially we did it because of the games this week and trying to schedule around those a little bit. The other part is Felix had a little bit of a fun week with law school, so
yeah,
his brain is all over the place right now.
Yeah, if I sound delirious, or I should say more delirious than usual, it's probably because because I haven't slept basically in a little while. So yeah, this should be a fun show, though. We have Ducks hockey, actual hockey games to talk about. We have more contract scuttlebutt, so it'll be a fun, quick-hitting show. But before we do that, though, do you want to wish or send out our condolences to the Nic Kerdiles and his family? Because, as you may have probably heard by now, died in a tragic, I think it was motorcycle accident.
Yeah.
And look, I didn't know Nic Kerdiles. I will never ever feel the same grief that anyone close to him is feeling, but there is something just kind of gut punchy about, hey, that's someone that we saw like out on the ice, like playing hockey, like that was a part of this thing, and now just knowing that person is gone, it's weird. It hits home in a weird way for us because we spend so much time watching this team.
Yeah, and I mean, it's weird because I remember him coming up and really kind of, you want to see him make the team because Orange County native, really the first Orange County native to be drafted by the Ducks, work his way up through the system, and eventually make his debut with the Ducks organization. While he didn't play many games, it was only, overall 7 games? 7 games overall, but 4 playoff games in the 16-17 playoff run to the, the run to the conference final. He got 4 games in that playoff run. So while not playing a significant amount of time with the Ducks, he played a significant amount of time with the Goals and was a native, and it's just sad. Just really, really sad outside of the context of him even being a player on the Ducks, removing all of that. This is a 29-year-old kid that was tragically killed in a motorcycle accident, and just sad.
Yeah, it's very much a bummer. So condolences, and yeah, just... there's just not really much more else we can really say on that. Moving forward, though, we're going to talk about preseason games and our impressions of the team because I think that there's a lot of fun to get into. But before we get to the fun, I think we should get the less fun out of the way first, which is basically just more updates on the Trevor Zegras, Jamie Drysdale front. And it just doesn't sound like it's going anywhere.
Yeah, and so one of the bigger things to come out about that was actually on the Chris Johnson show, and there wasn't really actually a whole lot of news from it, but there was a whole lot of, I think, inferences you can make. Really, the only news to come out of the report was that basically Trevor Zegras' camp and the Ducks did meet this week, and there's not really anything positive that has come out of that. They have basically, like we all know, have agreed on shorter term, but there's a pretty big gulf between the two of them when it comes to a monetary compensation throughout the deal to the AAV. And so what it really sounds like is, I mean, this is, I have a little bit of a transcript here, but
your transcript is an AI, like
100%. I use Microsoft Word and put my microphone to my speaker to at least do something.
When you said transcript, I thought like, oh, bullet points, cool. But this is just like a wall of text. But it's better
because I started transcribing it and I got like a little bit in. I was like, there has to be a faster way to just like use AI to help myself out with this. And so really the thing that kind of stands out to me is that Chris Johnson points out that he's heard that Zegras is really rock solid in terms of what he believes he's at, because one of the things that he thinks is that maybe the play of the Ducks, or it can go either way, right? Of as you get closer to camp, maybe the players start getting antsy, maybe their teammates start reaching out to them and kind of say, sign a deal to get here, and that kind of starts to happen, whereas kind of he pointed out, Zegras, he's not really getting that feel at all from what he's heard. He's rock solid in terms of where he believes he's at. Drysdale's a little bit of a different case, and it's kind of interesting that hasn't gone there, especially with the fact that Drysdale has 2 more seasons until he has arbitration, so there's not really a whole lot of context there. But the one thing that kind of stuck out to me, or the biggest point that stuck out to me, is specifically with Trevor Zegras, it seems like it's, and this is specifically what Chris Johnson said, I think it's a case of a difference of opinion about when a player should be paid in his career and how much he should be paid. That's, I think, the line that sticks with me from this.
Yeah, I mean, again, we don't really know what's actually being reported as factual and what's kind of just him speaking
opinions.
Generally.
I would say most of this is opinion outside of there was a meeting this week.
Yeah, so they are meeting, which is, I guess, what you would
Good.
expect if you're trying to resolve a situation and sign a contract. I think that what I'm getting from all of this is that basically when you're an RFA, that the common conception is that you have no leverage, and in a lot of ways you don't. You don't have any actual tools available to you. The tools that you do have available to you, I think, are more like a club than a fine-tooth comb. It gets ugly when you want to use your leverage as an RFA. You're going to hold out from games in the preseason. You're going to miss training camp, and eventually it gets really muddy and you miss regular season games. And I think the Zegras camp is just kind of saying, okay, like you don't want to come to where we are. We're willing to take this into the mud, and that is the leverage, quote unquote, that they have, because there's nothing else that they can do. The way that the Zegras contract is shaking out, this contract negotiation, same with Drysdale, is just yet another reflection on kind of this weird RFA system that we have in the NHL, where RFAs are kind of forced to do these things to exert any kind of leverage in their contract negotiation.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And it's almost like you're kind of, this is what you have to do to get what you think you're worth, right? Yep. If you don't, you're kind of at the mercy of the team. And it feels like, and this is now, I'm going to be clear here, this is my opinion from listening to that podcast, to kind of thinking through a lot of things. It really feels like Verbeek and Bob Murray was in the same mindset, and we've been critical of him, so I'm going to flip the switch. I know I've kind of given him a little bit of time here with this negotiation and said we don't know, but my opinion is flipping now a little bit on this and going to be critical of Verbeek here. This is a similar mindset of you're paying someone for what they've done in the past instead of trying to project out what they're going to be. And when you project out what they're going to be and pay them based upon that, sure, it may reset the market internally within your team. And that is the tough part of this, right? Is what's the impact of this going to be long term as you have all of these guys that are coming up. And that's an important point of this, is that this sets the market for Leo Carlsson, for Mason McTavish, for all of these guys, right? Because if they go into negotiations and Pat Verbeek can say, okay, Zegras signed for this, you're not going to get more than that because you did not produce more than him for that, right? Like it's a benchmark for an easy negotiation on the next ones. But having said that, I think that RFAs should be paid because those are their prime production years. And so those are the time when a player should be paid. And it sounds like that is what Pat Preseason, that is what Trevor Zegras are angling for, of these are the best years of his career. Age 24 to 28 are your best years of your career. That is when you should be getting paid your most. And especially with the fact of, it seems like the NHL is trending that way and not paying guys as much when they get to the 28, 29-year-old deals. As much.
Except and Pat Verbeek.
True. Fair. But that's kind of the point, though, right? Here is that the league is trending that way.
It's starting to look like Pat Verbeek has it backwards on contracts.
Correct.
And
Correct.
that is a very troubling sign because, again, this is all just us kind of trying to read what these reports are saying and maybe taking the lightest inference possible. But if this really comes down to Pat Verbeek doesn't want to pay Zegras more because he's not willing to pay that kind of projection type contract for an RFA, like he's swimming upstream because that's where the NHL is going.
Correct. On the flip side of that, and just a very slight pushback, that is where it's going on 8-year deals, guys coming off their ELCs. A 3-year deal bridge is a little bit of a different story here, right? And the reason for that is a 3-year deal is more team friendly. So as a result of that, you need to pay them a little bit less. And that is just where it's at. And so if this is just kind of laying a bunch of stuff out there, if Trevor Zegras and his camp are saying, we want the same AAV regardless if it's a 3-year deal or an 8-year deal, then that's a flaw. because that's just not how it works. Because an 8-year deal is going to be extremely team-friendly terms, so you pay more as a result of that.
But we don't know that. Like,
no, I know.
Yeah, like this is the danger of like getting into these hypotheticals is that
true.
It almost sounds like we're saying that's what's happening when it's not, or at least we don't know that it is.
We've done this a bunch, just laying out that there's a bunch of different ways that this could be playing out. But I think the one thing to kind of go back to from this podcast that Chris Johnson, who is a really good insider and has really good information, it just kind of leads me down the path of it feels like Pat Verbeek is negotiating backwards in terms of he's behind the 8 ball with how the NHL sees things and where things are going.
Which is weird because you think like, hey, Jeff Solomon is in that front office.
But to be fair, Solomon was a agent back when these deals were much tougher to get, and you kind of just took what the team was giving you, and players weren't getting these deals when he was last a player agent.
I think that honestly, it could be a scenario where Pat Verbeek and Jeff Solomon are looking at those deals, these 8-year deals, and saying, are these actually working out for teams? And the problem is, like, we're still kind of in the infant stages of these types of things. We haven't seen them fully play out. Like, so it's tough to say. I mean, I think that the one contract comparable that maybe Zegras is asking for in a 3-year deal would be the Jason Robertson deal.
Yeah.
Which was 3 times 7.75. And if he's asking for that, I just don't know if that is a good ask by him, because Robertson, the season before that contract kicked in, so let's see, his most recent deal he signed, when did he sign it? He signed it on October 6, 2022. So he signed it at the beginning of last year. He had already had a 79-point season. Like, Trevor Zegras has had a 65-point season, and that's great, but he hasn't had a 41-goal season to his name. And so if he's kind of trying to get into that ballpark, using that as a comp, and again, this is an if. Please, folks, mind the word if here, because we don't know. That would be unreasonable. But I just have to think that Pat Brisson is a high-powered agent who gets deals done all the time, is not new to this game, and I just if you're making these kind of asks this late into the game, like, you're just wasting everyone's time. You're wasting your own client's time because no one is going to sign that kind of deal, and you're wasting the team's time. So I have a hard time imagining that that's what they're asking for.
So I was curious. I went back and looked at Jason Robertson's Evolving Wild projection from last year, and on a 3-year term, he was projected at $6.4 million. And what did he get? He got $7 million is what he was at.
Yeah.
Do you have the actual contract?
Oh, 7.7.
7.7. He was projected at 6.4 per Evolving Hockey.
So he got a big contract, and that probably hurt. Oh, sorry, it was a 4-year deal. I should correct.
Was it 4?
4 years, yeah.
Okay, 4 is 7. 4 is 7.179. I mean, the one I come back to a little bit here, and I think there are going to be flaws with the comparison because I think this player was better defensively at the time, but Elias Pettersson, because Elias Pettersson has the same exact agent as Trevor Zegras. They are both represented by Pat Brisson. He signed a 3-year deal coming off his entry-level contract, and I believe if you because on Cap Friendly you can go back in time and you can also modify the salary cap to make it the same as today. So he signed that, I think, in 2020. And so if I make the salary cap the same as today, he was projected on a 3-year deal to get 5.95, whereas Zegras, I think, is 5.7. So from a projection standpoint, there's a very easy comparable there, right? Where from Evolving Hockey has them projected at the same amount, and Elias Pettersson got what, 3 times like 7.5?
Mm-hmm.
And so that to me is probably the comparison they're making on a 3-year deal is 7 million based on the Pettersson deal, because Brisson has that in his back pocket because that was a deal that he got.
I think that the trouble with the situation is that the Ducks have...
We know nothing.
Well, I mean, outside of that, like we've belabored that point.
Yeah.
But the trouble is that if you're Trevor Zegras, you're looking at the Anaheim Ducks that have 16 million in cap space, and you're just thinking, like, I don't like the fact that you're squeezing me, if they are, which I mean they kind of are at this point. It can't come across very well when you're looking at Cap Friendly. Like as the player, right? It's like you have the money to give me. I have shown that I am worth this money. There are comparable contracts that I can make an argument for, right? Like as an individual player, you must feel a little bit like not great about that.
Yeah, I think you would. I don't think that factors. I mean, it might. This is all
Players pay attention to what everyone makes, like
100%. But I don't know.
They're not playing for free.
I think probably you're more so frustrated that a deal's not done. I don't know if you're necessarily going to factor in the fact that cap space is there.
But let's say you're the agent, right? Let's say you're the agent. You are looking at the cap space. You're looking at everything, and so
true.
It's
fair.
It's hard to take the team seriously if they're penny pinching you when they have a bunch of money to give out.
Fair.
And that they are giving out to other people in different situations. But
I don't buy the argument, though, of people saying this is going to sour the relationship between the player and the team. Because at the end of the day, he's under club control for so long. I guess that's maybe what I'm pushing back on a little bit here, of that narrative that's happening.
It all depends how it ends. How it ends is to me the biggest factor. Look at the Troy Terry. This is maybe where you can compare the Troy Terry situation. Is that Troy Terry and the Ducks got on the goal line with arbitration. Like they were, Troy Terry was like, had his suit on, was ready to go to the hearing, and the deal got done. And now you hear him talk in interviews about, we had this great dinner that week, and we kind of just brought it down to a human level. Like, I think that how it ends up coloring your recollection of how it went.
Well,
so if this ends in a deal that everyone is mutually dissatisfied with, then I think it'll be okay.
And here's where I'm at. If we're 3 years from now, right? And he signed a 3-year deal, and the Ducks are contending, the Ducks are in a playoff push, everything is going well, no one's going to remember the fact that he held out. Like, as in, people will remember it, but there's going to be no bad blood because of it, right?
Yeah, potentially.
Like, that's, I guess, where I'm getting out of. I don't necessarily buy this being like a bad blood situation. At the end of the day, winning cures all. And if the Ducks if Pat Verbeek is able to build a winning team, that is what matters more than this negotiation going longer.
Yeah, I'm glad people in the chat are pointing out that your volume is high, because I have my volume on the lowest possible setting, and my ears are just getting...
My bad. I'm lowering my volume.
Okay.
I've been doing that to test it. I've also lowered my gain. So thank you. As always, people watching live, if you hear things that are too loud, volume, different things like that, let me know. I'll fix it.
And now my ears are happier. But
there you go.
This is where it's just so hard to get into these conversations, because when I listen to other people talk about it and I hear them have strong takes on it, I'm like, well, we don't know. So that's why I feel like us going too far down the rabbit hole is also
fair. Yes.
It'd be hypocritical to have these big takes. My own personal opinion of where this is going, though, I could see Trevor Zegras missing regular season games.
I agree.
I think that the preseason is possibly just the start of this thing.
Yeah.
Because the way you think about it, right? They were working towards that deadline of training camp starting. Now that training camp has started, it's almost like, well, the cat's out of the bag there anyway. The toothpaste's out of the tube. So what's the next possible deadline that they can work against? Regular season, right? And so that's going to be another leverage point for the Zegras side. So I could see him missing some regular season games. And hey, maybe that's a good place to set your expectations, because if he ends up signing,
ahead of it,
then you feel better. But that's where I see it going.
The Drysdale part still is just weird to me. It's still just very odd that that's not done. Like, I have zero read or opinion.
So that's my thing, right? Is it really two players just being so unreasonable, or is this maybe a trend with how management negotiates with its young players? Like, we just don't know.
Yeah. I mean, one thing we haven't talked about here that I think is worth bringing up, and someone actually mentioned to me in a DM, is one interesting point is the fact of qualifying offers after this, and how the final year salary does impact that. And so there is maybe some bartering over that and where that ends up for Zegras as a result of that, because that impacts what the next deal at minimum will be with the QO. So there are a lot of moving parts, and it's not a completely simple thing. I guess that's my point.
It's not a completely simple thing. Like, these people are paid a lot of money to make these decisions, and I think that's for a reason, but also it's not that complicated either, right? It's just something someone has to come off of their number.
Yeah, because that's what it feels like.
I wish we just knew what the numbers were. I'm dying to know what the numbers are.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's a situation where each side has their number. Both are being steadfast with it, and neither party wants to meet anywhere. And so I agree with that being the case. I think that he's going to miss games. I think that's kind of where this is going.
Yeah, I just think that it's clear to me that that Zegras, because this is him at the end of the day, is okay with using whatever leverage he has.
More power to him. Like, take advantage of all the leverage that you can get. It sucks from our perspective of not being able to watch him. It sucks from the perspective of potentially hurting the team because he's going to come in a little bit later, right? But do what you need to do to make your money. You only have a certain amount of time to make your money.
And this kind of puts a bow on it because it's like I was saying in the beginning. This is if people are mad at Trevor Zegras or mad at Jamie Drysdale, I think that you need to re-examine why you're upset, because look at the way the NHL system is set up. These guys at their young age, where they are playing their best hockey, where it's the young players that are really driving the success of teams around the league. They're put in a position where they have no other way of exerting leverage. Like, this is all that they have, and so they are now more than ever in NHL history willing to kind of go to these lengths, and I support that, because I think the system needs to change. I don't think that
agreed.
Like these situations are not good for fans, right? It's not good to have your young star players missing games. It's not good for organizations because it can potentially sour the relationship, even if it ends up not. It could, right? Like, this is not a productive situation. And so I don't know what the NHL, if this will ever change in the NHL, but I think we just need to find a way to change the age for UFA, change when arbitration can kick in. But it's just, this to me is all just a product of the way the system is currently set up.
Yep.
So,
I mean, it's a leverage play, and the only leverage that they have is this.
And it sucks because we want to watch these guys play hockey. We don't care. Nobody follows the sport for contract disputes at the end of the day.
Yep. Just make arbitration eligible after the ELC.
Yeah. Something has got to give. But so what else do we have to talk about? The games? I feel like there's one other thing. Okay.
Just the games.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can just start with your general impressions, because the Ducks played last night. They've played 3 games. I think they beat the Sharks last night.
They did. They've won all 3 games. They're 3-0. They're winning the preseason cup.
Oh, that's right. They won the game on, was it Sunday?
Yes.
They won on Sunday against, I forget who they played.
LA. It was the useless game where LA's entire team was in Australia, so there were nobodies. So then the Ducks also pretty much played Leo Carlsson plus a bunch of nobodies.
Wow.
I think there were a couple of
disrespectful.
Sam Carrick,
disrespectful
Brock McGinn,
Jackson Lacombe and his 2 goals.
Okay, yes. There were some players.
You were the one telling me those were impressive goals, and now
I was the one saying that you were shitting on them too much.
And then Chase DeLeo. Oh, sorry, I meant 69. 69 was in the game. Hey, if you make that your jersey number, I said it in my video. Like, you are bringing attention to yourself.
You refused to say the number in the video, though.
No. Well, I forget what I did. I drew 69 on the not the.
Were you afraid? Were you afraid of YouTube because it was a shorter form video doing something to you? Whereas now we're 24 minutes into a video, so you're fine.
I don't know. But I'm just saying that if you make that your number. Oh, by the way, I got ratioed by Chase DeLeo this week. I should probably bring that up on Twitter. I tweeted out, "Can someone explain to me why Chase DeLeo wears that number?" And Chase DeLeo responded with like a creepy smirk emoji. And I got ratioed. He got more likes than the original tweet. So
rightfully so. Had it coming.
It's just it's unprofessional. Don't wear that number. You're bringing attention to yourself.
Yeah, might as well. But yeah, so the first game, I don't really have a whole lot of takeaways from that game overall.
Well,
I mean, Jackson Lacombe made a couple of really nice plays, but I think overall with the lineups that each team's had, there wasn't a lot of takeaways. I didn't really want to judge Greg Cronin either way, for better or for worse, off of that lineup or off of that game, because that lineup is just not anything relevant in terms of what he's going to have.
I do want to give a shout to Yegor Sidorov. He had a few. That guy has some hands. I don't know what he's.
He's just so happy.
I don't know what he's going to be as an NHL player, but every time I watch him, I feel like he does some random dangle that I'm just like, whoa, where did that come from? So I'll give him a quick shout. But the game itself was not super noteworthy.
The game itself was not super noteworthy. Whereas both games against San Jose, there are some takeaways from both of those games. And so the first one in San Jose was the Ducks actually played a pretty good game. They, I think, got 60% of the expected goal share throughout the game. And, I mean, the standout to me was Olen Zellwger and Tristan Luneau were just fantastic. Zellweger played in this game, was paired with Ilya Lyubushkin. And then you also had Ryan Strome and Frank Vetrano in that game. My overall takeaways from this game were Zellweger was fantastic. He was jumping up into the play. He was creating chances. He had a 2-point night on the game with a really nice seeing eye shot that he was able to score from the point where he kind of walked the line a little bit. Didn't just fire it on net right away, but found the open space and fired it and got through all the bodies, beat the goalie. And then he got an assist on the power play goal that came later. And then Tristan Luneau was just steady, really good, and really did well in his job. Going back to Olen Zellweger slightly, if you look at kind of the matchup charts that he had, him and Lyubushkin were primarily paired against Eklund, Sturm, and Haltunen, so probably the top line for the Sharks throughout that game. And they dominated the expected goal share and shot share throughout the game up against those guys. And so I think that was really noteworthy with how they were able to dominate there. And especially with, I mean, Lyubushkin, I was very hesitant about him coming in, but if you go back a couple years, just really solid defensive defenseman, and he showed that throughout this game. And so this was the game that stuck out of the Ducks playing a lot better, more towards what you want from Greg Cronin's system of controlling play, moving the puck in the other way, and creating chances as a result of that.
Yeah, the other thing to point out from that game is just the fact that Ryan Strome is on the wing.
Yes.
And Andrew Agozzino is at center.
Yeah. And
it's kind of like, hey, if an AHL guy is at center, I don't want to say over him, but just in place of him, because he started last season at center. Kind of feels like the Ryan Strome at center ship may have fully
yeah.
sailed.
Is it concerning at all that Vetrano and Strome were just not good in this game?
No.
They were those two, along with Tyson Hines, were the only people underneath 50% expected goal share.
So I didn't watch the full game, just full disclosure, but no, I'm not. Like, it's one I mean, look at the Sharks lineup from that game they were not featuring a lot of NHL guys. So
yep.
It was more of a prospect game.
Fair.
So, which maybe could bolster your argument, but I don't really put a ton of stock. They also had Andrew Agozzino as their center, who is not an NHLer.
It's preseason at the end of the day, and I think last year we were looking at some of the numbers, and the Ducks looked good in preseason, and everything went to shit when the season started. So
yeah,
not to buy too much off these numbers, but I think they are still noteworthy to at least take a look at in that sense.
Yeah, and then the game last night. I mean, should we do our ad read before that game? Because I feel like that game had a little more spice to it. More zest.
Let's go for it. So Fresh Ball Fall is upon us, and you need to be in the festive spirit. Light a candle, get some pumpkin spice, and make sure your balls look nice with the sponsors of today's show, Manscaped. Nature may clear the leaves of their tree, but you'll need Manscaped's help to get you ready for that sweater weather. Get your pants puppies prepared for cuffing season with a trim as refreshing as a fall breeze by going to manscaped.com and using code CTP for 20% off plus free shipping. It's time for nice flannels and cozy socks, but we can't forget to trim our balls. By now you've heard of them, but it's time to join the 9 million men worldwide using Manscaped and get the kit that covers it all, the Performance Package 4.0. It starts with a Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer with advanced skin-safe technology that reduces nicks and cuts to make raking the leaves a lot less painful. Plus, the lawnmower is a technical masterpiece. It has a 7,000 RPM motor, a multifunction on-off switch that can engage a travel log, and a built-in 4000K LED spotlight to help you see parts of your body you haven't looked at in years. Once you've cleared the driveway, the Performance Package comes in hot with products to cool you down. The Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and Crop Reviver Ball Spray Toner. One to prevent stink and one to clear it up. With a soothing aloe vera formula, move over pumpkin spice. Fresh balls are the smell of the season. The Performance Package 4.0 caps it off with 2 free gifts, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. That's one to hold your Manscaped goodies and one to hold your man goodies. Bring in the fall right and get 20% off and free shipping with the code CTP at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code CTP. As the leaves fall, make sure you have it all with Manscaped.
Man, we may have to... We have to talk about that after. I actually used the lawnmower today for shave off a little neck scruff. So there you go.
Why would you use the lawnmower for that when they have an actual trimmer that you and I have meant for your face?
Which I don't have one.
You should have. You've definitely had it.
You never sent it to me. Wow.
I do not send them.
Withholding products.
I do not send any of these. Manscaped gladly sends us these products to test them out and try them.
You put in my order for your address. I see how it is.
Sure, I have multiple sitting here.
Anyway,
you for sure have gotten one, but
I have
yes.
I have a ton of nose trimmers that I may or may not use. So,
should we get Chase DeLeo to come on the podcast to do the next read?
Yeah, get 69 on the podcast.
Yeah.
He better, if he has an issue with me calling him 69, then maybe don't wear the number. Just a thought.
I mean, he did just reply with an emoji, and that was it. So,
yeah, fair. I mean, I think Chase DeLeo is an active Twitter user. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Getting back to the preseason game last night, I have a couple of, I don't want to say bones to pick.
Okay.
But I have a couple of
pick those bones.
I have a couple of observations.
Okay.
I think that Leo Carlsson, ever since the games have started to pick up a little bit, I feel like he's not quite as dynamic looking as he was in the rookie faceoff, which makes sense. Like, the competition has increased. It's not as easy, but he's noticeably less, he's not making as many things happen right now. And I don't want to put too much stock into it, but just based off what I'm seeing, he's still doing all the right things. He's still supporting down low. He's still involved in the play. But there's some times where he'll get the puck on his stick and he's cutting or he's changing lanes, and it's almost like he short circuits and it's happening too fast, and he just screws up his play or whatever. And again, it's still a small sample, but I haven't seen him adjust quite yet to the higher speed of these preseason games.
Yeah, and I think, higher, because you're also, you got to think about this, right? He played in Sweden last year against pros, which would be a faster speed than he was playing in the rookie tournament. But the adjustment to the smaller ice is an adjustment.
It's to be expected that he's not amazing immediately, right? No one is expecting him to score 1 million goals a game right away. But I just think that in the rookie faceoff, which was on small ice, which was against North American players,
correct.
He was playing. He looked exactly like the player we thought that he was capable of being. And so far, and it could be he got a pretty bad high stick the other day, and it almost got him in the eye, and that took him out of the game on Sunday. So maybe he's a little shaken up. We don't know, but he just hasn't been quite as dynamic. And there's still plenty of preseason games left, but just where we are at right now, based on what he's shown, still adjusting, I would say, a little bit.
Also, last night's game in general was a pretty poor game from the Ducks. Even though they won 4-2, this was a game where the Ducks
got brutally outshot.
They got brutally outplayed, and they were completely bailed out by, first off, a fantastic Lukas Dostal performance. Yeah, he was the only reason they were in that game. He was so good. And then also the San Jose goalie, Romanov, I think it was his first game on North American ice. And so he did not play a good game and let in a lot of soft goals. And so I really just think that this was a tale of two goaltenders.
Yeah.
And the Sharks well outplayed the Ducks.
I should also point out that with Leo Carlsson, he was playing with Killorn and Nestorenko yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think that Killorn works well with Carlsson when they're on the cycle, when they're set up in the offensive zone, because Killorn is clearly more of a cycle guy than a rush guy.
Yeah.
But Leo likes to play in transition too, and Nikita Nestorenko can be that, but he's just so wild out there. I feel like sometimes he just has no plan. Or not, I should say no plan, but I don't know if he's really reading the game as much as he's just skate fast, make move. And I think with Leo Carlsson, you need guys that are a little more cerebral around him that can play a little bit more with him in transition. So it's not, I'm not trying to pin his performance entirely on him. The other guy I want to talk about, the other bone I have to pick, is I don't really know quite yet what to make of Olen Zellwger in these games, because he has these moments of brilliance, like undoubted brilliance, attacking. But what I've kind of come to realize watching him more carefully is that he only has one speed. Like he's always on Olen Zellweger time. It's make the most aggressive play, try to win, and when I use the word win, what I'm saying is try to get the home run on every at bat, instead of sometimes you got to just get on base, get a single.
No, we want dingers.
Right. But the thing is, as a defenseman, if you swing and miss, that miss can be very costly. And I thought that on the goal, I forget which, it was in the third period, one of the goals the Ducks gave up, we saw there. So earlier in the game, Olen Zellweger got an assist by being very aggressive in the offensive zone, activating from the blue line, pinching in and creating additional passing lanes. And that's Olen Zellweger at his best. On the goal in the third period, he was trying to do the same thing, except he was too aggressive. He pinched when he didn't have to. The Sharks were able to poke the puck out of their defensive zone, go off on a 2-on-1, and eventually score. And that was a microcosm, I think, of just the Olen Zellweger experience for me, which is that he can look amazing, and it's not always going to be disastrous, but he's taking a lot of gambles. And he's very active out there, and I just think that this isn't a commentary on how good he is as a player, but I think it's just him figuring out the NHL right now. Like, he's figuring out, okay, where do I fit in?
And it sounds like that's kind of what the coaching staff is really trying to hammer home with him, right? And, I mean, that's why I think they're pairing with a Radko Gudas. I actually think, in some ways, Ilya Lyubushkin is a better fit for him because of that. I think Radko Gudas... I think Gudas has almost kind of been miscast in terms of his reputation. He's so much fun to watch, and I'm a huge fan of him. I just feel like he's miscast in some ways in terms of how people view him. Like, people view him as this steady Eddie, like, defensive defenseman going to, like... But he like jumps up into the play, and he will make more aggressive plays than you think he's going to make. There was one play where, I think it was in the first period, where a Sharks player just flipped the puck out of the zone high, and no one knew where it was except for him, and he made the read on it, gloved it down, led a 3-on-2 rush going the other way. Yeah. And it's like, these are not plays that a quote-unquote defensive defenseman makes. Well, like this.
Yeah. I mean, like, to your point. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, and so I think that the idea that is his, like, reputation for a lot of people, I don't think he fits the billing necessarily of the reputation he has. And so
it's incomplete.
And so I think that Ilya Lyubushkin actually might be a bit of a better fit for Olen Zellweger as a result of that.
Well, so I don't really think it's a partner problem now for Olen Zellweger.
Fair.
But to your point on Gudas, though, there was a play, I think it was in the third period as well, where he gets the puck in the defensive zone to break it out, and he kind of does a head fake to angle one way, and then stick handles around the forechecker, like in the middle of the defensive zone. Like, that is a no-no. You don't do that.
Love it.
And he just, like, put on a little hands display, and I was like, oh, okay. Did not know that was in your bag, Radko. But going back to Zellweger, I think that it's not a partner issue to me, because he's just, I don't want to say misreading the play, but he's just choosing, like I said, he's choosing option A all the time, when it's like sometimes you got to hit another button, right? He's kind of doing the button mashing that you'll see when you're playing Super Smash Brothers. It's like, hey, that'll work against noobs, but it's not going to work if the other guy knows how to counter. And so I think that for him, I think he's capable of dialing it back, and that's going to come with coaching, which is why development is so important. And so I'm just very curious, as the preseason goes along, is he going to start making those adjustments? Or is this something that he's going to have to work out maybe in the NHL or the AHL? Because if he keeps playing like this kind of reckless hockey, I just don't see him lasting in the NHL.
What do you make of Greg Cronin's comments last night about him? And so, for those that missed it, here's the quote. I thought Olen was our best player. He's real visible, right? He's up and down the ice. He's confident. We've asked him to really focus on defense. A lot of those offensive guys coming out of junior, they get away with a lot of bad habits defensively. And since he arrived here, we just keep reminding him to value the defensive side of the puck. He's a shorter guy, doesn't have the length, not particularly a physically thick person. So he's got to rely on defending these attack lanes. So I think he's really focused on that, and he's extremely competitive. When guys are committed to these habits, they usually get pushed back or pucks back.
Well, so I don't really think he said a whole lot there about how he actually played. He just said he was really visible, which he was. He was everywhere. Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of my whole point, is that he's too everywhere. Like he needs to find a way to just disappear on some shifts. And because when he does pop up in a good way, it can change a game. So I'm very curious to see what they do with him, whether they're willing to live with those mistakes in the NHL because the reward outweighs the cost, or they're like, you know what, maybe it's just better for him to kind of make those mistakes in a lower stakes environment. Like, I don't know if there's necessarily a wrong answer.
I'm going on a limb here, and I think just the way that Greg Cronin has spoke about Olen Zellwger and just essentially put praises out on him, and both after this game. I mean, he played in back-to-back games. I just think, to me, that is in some ways a sign that they're testing Zellweger. They want to see what he can do, and he's passing at least what the coaching staff is seeing from him.
The other thing, too, that we got to keep in mind is that coaches make comments before they've rewatched the game.
That's true.
And they do look at tape between periods, but I think when you're on that bench, it's kind of like when we're watching. Like, you're in the emotion of the game. Yeah. And yes, you are still able to make your evaluations, but watching it back, I just feel like it gives maybe at least for me, it gave a different impression.
Well, do you think I guess, let me put it this way. Do you think Zellweger has increased his stock in terms of making the Ducks out of camp so far in preseason?
Not for me. I think he's but I don't think he's hurt his stock. I just think he's kind of at neutral. Like, because I want to see him be an NHL defenseman. Like, I don't really, like, I know what he can do offensively. I know the dynamic play that he can bring, but I want to see him be just polished out there.
So I think in the first game, he more so was like that. I think the second game, yes, I agree with what you're saying. I think the one thing I will say is I think he has increased his stock with the fact of how Greg Cronin is speaking about him.
Yeah, I don't know.
It could be a lot of lip service.
If you look at what he's saying, though, like, he's not actually describing what happened. He outside of just he was everywhere.
Well, I think stating that he was our best player is stating something.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
But like in a lineup with Radko Gudas, with Alex Killorn, with Leo Carlson, with all these guys in there, right? To say Olen was their best player is something is of importance in terms of how Cronin views him.
That's fair. That is a fair point, and we shall see. Because to me, and I don't want this to become a narrative surrounding my analysis here, but I was watching Pavel Mintyukov in the same game. He scored a goal but had a much quieter game, but to me a more effective game because he's just so calm back there. He's always kind of just he made some mistakes. Like I'm not saying he's a perfect player. He's got his own things to work on, but I think Mintyukov is a little, I don't want to even say further ahead, but he's just the way
he plays a quieter game.
The way he's reading the thing is, I mean, we saw him in the rookie faceoff. He can be very loud. He can be extremely loud. Yes. It's just that right now he understands the tempo a little bit better. And I think Zellweger is kind of like, well, you guys got to adjust to me. And at a certain point, that's just going to bite you. So I'm just very curious how that will develop. This is the fun of following a team with a lot of great prospects, is being able to follow their development.
By the way, Greg Cronin also had a quote on Pavel Mintyukov. Both of these are from Derek Lee, good friend at this Tribune and everything with us. Go follow him on Twitter or X or whatever it is, at Derek_Lee27. But said, this is a quote from Greg Cronin. Pavel is good. I'm excited to see more of him. I think he's going to get more confident as we move on. You can see his burst offensively, and he's fearless defensively. And he's obviously a bigger body, so he's going to have a little more stiffness to the way he defends. But both he and Zellweger have a bright future.
Yeah, he had a really nice check in open ice to deny like a clean entry last night. So but this is a great thing. Like this is, to me, this is one of my favorite parts about following hockey, is seeing players develop and how they adjust. And I think we're just in for a treat this year with all these young players.
it's kind of crazy. I was looking at the Ducks cap friendly page today because I was curious about, because guys were starting to put on weight, being starting to be put on weight. Did you call it
X? Lou was saying you called it X.
I said Twitter or X or whatever the hell it is.
Don't do the or. Just call it Twitter until you can't, until it loses its relevance.
Fine. But I was looking at the Ducks cap friendly today because I was curious about kind of guys potentially maybe going on waiver soon, with now waivers being open. And if you look at their non-roster players, the Ducks only have 5 guys that are essentially non-roster players that are going to need waivers.
Dang.
Like, it's kind of crazy how many waiver exempt players are on this team and in this system and going to be playing for the goals this year.
Yeah, and not to change the subject on you, but I do want to talk about the Alex Killorn situation yesterday.
Yep. Do you want to talk about Do you want to talk about Gudas first, or just jump into?
Well, so I love the Gudas reaction.
Yep. Agreed.
Because by the way, that was the play where Zellweger turned it over, or I shouldn't say turned it over, but led to the 2-on-1. And yeah, Gudas just sticking up for his goalie. I mean, just looking like a madman out there, just the hair flowing, just screaming at, I forget which Sharks player it was, but I know that this is like all narrative street stuff, but you kind of love to see that pushback and that tone being set early in the season. Like that, I think, is a productive way to set a tone. It's because it's not malicious. No one's getting hurt. It's just, hey, like, we're sticking up for each other.
Yeah. And the camaraderie behind it and everything like that.
Yeah. Like guys,
I mean, Zellweger, I think, was the first. I think Zellweger was actually the first person in on the guy that ran Drysdale.
Yeah. So I think that's awesome. What is less awesome is Alex Killorn just boarding a guy for no reason. Like that was just, I mean, I thought it should have maybe warranted more in terms of punishment, but it just a clear-cut boarding penalty, got him from behind. The onus is on the player making the hit to not, like, it's in the rule. And yes, there is some language about avoidability, but don't hit the guy when he's facing the other way, when he's facing towards the boards.
Yeah, and he didn't turn that much last second. Sure, he turned a little bit, but it's not as if he was like.
But that doesn't negate the hit. Yeah.
It does in some ways, in terms of there is some verbiage within the rule of turning late and putting yourself into that position does impact you. But he barely turned, and I think my bigger issue with the hit is the fact that it was a delayed penalty, was about to be a touch-up. And it's very similar to, like, if there's an icing call, and way back when it was touch icing, and guys would get hit after that, and it was like completely pointless, unnecessary, delayed offside. Like, there's actually like within the boarding penalty, it lists delayed offside and icing within there, and this is very similar to that of the play was blown dead or about to be blown dead, and Killorn boarded him. And
I think Zadina had to leave the game because of it?
And was injured, and it's just not a good hit. And the Ducks were about to go on a power play, and if you want to, like, try to set a message, just take the power play at the end of the game, kill the game off.
Yeah,
like,
I did not like that.
Yeah, wasn't a fan of the hit. Like, unnecessary.
I'm all for, like we were just saying, I'm all for the physicality and the kind of pushback, but when you're potentially hurting a guy, like, that's just needless. So
yeah, I mean, I just view it this way: of if you have are viewing it from an eye for an eye perspective, that's exactly what got Troy Terry punched by Jay Beagle, because it was about Trevor Zegras poking the goalie, right?
Yeah,
like, it's that same mentality, and that mentality I just completely disagree with.
It's also a freaking preseason game. Like,
that too.
Why are we boarding people in the preseason? Like, it's just odd to me.
Yep.
So anyway, just want to touch on that. Everyone loves a good was it a good hit or bad hit debate. That's always fun. Anything else? I don't think is there anything else to talk about from last week? Oh, I want to bring this up. So I actually forgot that Max Comtois got a PTO with the Golden Knights.
Mm-hmm.
And have you seen that he's wearing number 88?
No.
And like, maybe it's because he was 44 and that's like 44 times 2 or something, but just what a funny, like, number for him to wear, because 88 is usually, like, a lot of star players have worn that number. Just to see it on Max Comtois just kind of cracks me up. So
What about
thought I'd give him a little shout out.
What about the Simon Benoit comments?
Oh yeah, it's like all the
B Doddles brought that up.
All the ghosts of Ducks' mediocre past or awful past are coming home to roost. Yeah. So I think he just said that the Ducks made a mistake in letting him go or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, you expect a player to say something like that, right? Like he's kind of talking himself up. He's trying to prove that the Ducks made a mistake. Like I don't have anything really against that. So I do think I disagree with him because I think he was really bad last year, and it kind of sucks because I feel like he's trying to turn himself into this like all-out physicality defenseman. And at least when I first watched Simon Benoit, I thought what made him effective was just being a smart puck mover and just a good skater, like a solid enough skater. And now he's kind of trying to become the hip check guy, and it's like maybe just go back to what got you here instead of doing that. I don't know. Just something to think about. But I hope he thrives in Toronto. I hope he makes the team and things go well for him, but we'll see.
What do you think of Ducks PTO player Zach Kassian last night?
I mean, he's on the power play.
He's so bad.
He's playing with Adam Henrique and Brock McGinn.
He's so bad. Adam Henrique, by the way, playing at center for the first time in like years.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Also, someone put in our chat that there's an angle that makes the Killorn hit look less bad.
It's the same angle.
It looks just as bad. Like he's hitting him from behind. I don't get it.
He sees the numbers, goes through the numbers, head hits the boards. Just not a great hit. But
yeah, and also like you can tell he's letting up. Like you can tell that like the play is about to end. Yeah. So anyway, don't want to talk about that anymore. But you were saying, I forgot.
Yeah, Zach Kassian's really bad. The theory I've come up with now.
He just doesn't do anything out there.
The theory I've come up with is that this is an overreaction by Pat Verbeek to what happened last preseason when Trevor Zegras got run over.
Is it an overreaction? Weren't you the one to say that PTOs don't matter?
I mean, they don't matter, but I think the fact of they have him for preseason game. Okay, it's not an overreaction; it's a reaction to that happening to have him in a preseason game.
I mean, that's plausible. It could also be plausible that Zach Kassian is a on
5%. 5%.
Yeah, you put it at 5%, which I feel like is higher than you would have had it like
5%. I don't see a roster spot for him. The Ducks have 12 forwards right now.
I don't either,
without Trevor Zegras.
I don't either, but I watch Brett Leeson play and I think, man, I don't know if I see it with him. And at least with Kassian,
he has like 3 goals in the preseason so far.
Okay. Are you really going to make me say things that I've told you in the interim? Let's just say I'm not putting a lot of stock into some of those goals. Like, I mean, I'm just not.
Pat Verbeek's going to look at those numbers. Keep them up.
So with Zach Kassian, though, at least you can say, hey, he's an NHL veteran, toughness, blah, blah, whatever. I don't agree with any of it, but that's the argument. Like with Brett Leeson, I'm just kind of like, okay, he's a depth guy, I guess, that can maybe be okay, but I'm not moved by his preseason production thus far.
All right. Want to get to questions? Is it that time?
Sure.
All right. So we're going to start with our Discord. Go to patreon.com/crashspawn. At the $1 tier, you get access to your Discord. With that, you get the questions will be your questions within the podcast questions channel will get read first. So Shaken Wing said, Felix did a great job on the videos. By the way, shout out to you for those videos. Go check them out at youtube.com/crashthepond. And he said, what should the segment be called? And people replied, Plant Wrench said Crash the Film Room. Derek said Felix's Film. Appa said Storytime with Felix. Jack Jane said Only Film and shortened it to OF.
No.
So there we go.
That's from the 69 School of Humor. No, that ain't happening.
All right. Connor said each of you talk about Lubomir Visnovsky and say something nice.
Well, are we answering the first question or is this?
What should it be called? Sure, go for it.
I don't think that it needs a name.
Okay.
That's my own personal opinion.
I mean, I would like a name to make a playlist, so.
Well, you can just call it like player
film room.
Yeah, I don't like the film room thing.
Only Felix?
It's not even on film.
Connor in our Twitch chat saying Only Felix.
No, I'm calling it just player name plus game plus breakdown.
Well, I need a playlist name.
Just call it player breakdowns and tier it.
Ducks game day breakdowns.
Wow. But hey, maybe Noble Ale Works will give us a sponsorship if we do that.
All right, moving on. Each of you talk about Lubomir Visnovsky and say something nice.
Underrated duck historically.
Yeah, 100% underrated. This came just from looking at years past. He should have won the Norris that year. Like, that was before we really had a lot of advanced metrics in the way that we do. And his 2010-2011 season was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Like, him and Tony Ludman. Like, Tony Ludman was
Tony
like
Ludman
top.
might actually be underrated.
Yes. That pairing of Visnovsky-Ludman was probably the best pairing in the league that year.
Yeah. And it was wasted, unfortunately.
Wasted with Randy Carlisle as the head coach.
Shocker.
Yeah. All right. Dorian said, more so for Felix, would you rather have Slavkovsky or Cooley?
Why? Really? Are we doing this to an 18-year-old who got injured? Look, I think Logan Cooley is great, and I will give full transparency. People love transparency, so I'll be transparent. I will expose myself. Pause. But Logan Cooley is great. He's who I would have picked number one. I think I even said that on the podcast that year. But guys, it's one goal in one preseason game. 32 Thoughts was talking about it and talking about stuff. I'm like, can we pump the brakes just for a second here? Like, Uri Slavkovsky got hurt. He was they made him a fourth liner last year. Like, let's give him a chance before we declare this race over. Like, come on. So, I don't know if that even answers the question, but I would have drafted Logan Cooley over Slavkovsky, but I still think Slavkovsky can be great because I believe in the Habs development system. There you go.
There it is. SB84 said Crone Zone. Are you a believer in Greg Crone? Have you entered the Crone Zone? Are you on the highway to the Crone Zone?
I like what I'm hearing. I think what I like about Greg Cronin is that whenever he talks in interviews, he's always citing like very specific things about the game. Like it's not very fluffy. It's always rooted in like some principle or some concept within the strategy of the game, which I like.
Yep. All right. Brad said, question for the pod. Through training camp and the first three preseason games, who has been your biggest disappointment? Who has been your most pleasant surprise?
Ooh, why don't you take this one first?
Oh, man. Biggest disappointment. I think Alex Killorn didn't look great last night. It's early, but
yeah, he's also not. He's not a guy who looks great in general when he's moving.
No, but
he's a bit of a lumbering player.
Yeah, so I'll go with him. Pleasant surprise. I think Pavel Regenda's looked good in the games he's played. I mean, not so much a surprise but a pleasant is Lukas Dostal and how well he played yesterday.
Wait, hold on a second. Have we changed? Has the spelling of Zach Cassian's last name been changed?
No, it's the fact that the Ducks, like in arena, like spelling had it with a C.
Oh,
which then screwed up Natural Stat Trick, which also listed it as a C because the Ducks. I think maybe the Ducks on the score sheet did that.
Okay, that makes it make more sense.
It was a Ducks issue because are you looking at like Natural Stat Trick or something and seeing it?
And I'm just like, why is there a C? Like, what did he? Anyway. Is this like Semyon Varlamov changing the spelling of Semyon?
No.
Okay.
The back of it, I looked today because I was curious. The back of his jersey said had it with a K.
So my biggest surprise thus far, I mean, I think for me personally, I've just really jumped on the Pavel Mintyukov train, just watching him play, and so because I just wasn't sure what to expect. I wasn't that familiar with his game. And then biggest disappointment. I mean, it's just 3 games, and like we didn't even really see most of the team in the first game, so this feels like a bit unfair to answer. So don't put too much stock into this answer. But I would say probably Nathan Gaucher.
Fair point.
Just because even in the rookie faceoff, like this goes back to the rookie faceoff. I don't know. Like I was expecting a little bit more polish defensively, maybe just a little more activity on offense, and. Like last night, I thought he had an okay game, but he's just, I don't know. He hasn't really blown me away for a guy who, is going to play pro hockey this year and has a lot of junior experience. I was just I'm a little surprised, but it's early. There's plenty of time, so don't write him off or whatever.
Literate Gal said, question, what is patience and why don't we have it?
I mean, look, there's two sides to this coin, as there are to every coin, I think, unless there's a 3-sided coin out there that I'm not aware of. But on one hand, I get it. Fans, this is frustrating. You want the contracts to be signed. You want to move on. On the other hand, it's like, this happens. This has happened elsewhere. This will happen again.
Yep.
This is the system. You know, like, you got to balance your desire to want it to be over and kind of just patience, like Bonnie said. So I'm uplifting Bonnie's take there. Patience.
Yep. I think by the end of the season, we're going to forget necessarily about them holding out.
I thought you were going to say by the end of the season they're going to be signed, which would have been a fun take.
Nope. Wasn't. But yes. Bold take. By the end of the season, they will be signed.
In which league?
Wow.
No.
D-Rock said, which defenseman finishes the season with the most points?
Of any?
On the Ducks, I would assume.
Let's see.
Who's going to get first power play minutes?
That's already a great question of itself.
Probably Fowler, which I guess probably leads me to saying Cam Fowler.
Yeah, I think Fowler is a safe play, but I'm gonna give a vote to Jamie Drysdale.
I'd say Olen. Let's go with the fun pick and say Zellweger's on the team all year and leads them in points by
I'll go. My fun pick is gonna be Jamie Drysdale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isaac said, after the first 3 preseason games, who do you see making the team, excluding top winger Zach Cassian, of course? So I'm going to make an adjustment to this because I don't think running through the entire lineup currently makes sense, seeing as we haven't seen everyone. But I'll name a couple names for you. Leo Carlson.
Wait, what are you asking me?
Will this person make the team? Leo Carlson.
I think they will give him NHL games regardless of how he looks.
Okay. Sam Carrick.
Yeah, duh.
Brett Leeson.
Why are we slandering Sam Carrick, man?
Brett Leeson.
I'm gonna go no. I think he's waived.
Urho Vakanainen.
Hey, he looked okay yesterday, but I'm not sold yet, so I'm gonna go no.
So he gets waived. Jackson Lacombe.
Yes.
Robert Hagg.
Yes.
Colton White.
Sure.
I say no. I think he gets waived.
Or no. I don't know. Whatever. Are we doing the entire roster?
No, I'm just picking guys that I think are on the bubble, basically.
Oh, okay.
Zellweger.
No.
Okay, I think that he does make the team.
No.
Hellison.
Probably no.
Hellison, I think no. Alex Stalock.
I'm gonna go with no.
Yeah, I'm going with no there. I think that's really it from guys that I kind of view. Oh, like Pavel Regenda. And Nikita Nesterenko.
I think they're both golds, honestly.
Okay.
Like the thing with Regenda is I just feel like he has to do more. He's a good player that can fit into a system, but there's just guys ahead of him, and I just feel like he has to do more. And I'm not saying that those guys ahead of him are better, but they're just signed to bigger NHL contracts. So
Chase DeLeo?
No, not with that number.
And
but Nesterenko I think needs time in the AHL.
Agreed.
He's too wild out there.
Lou said, thoughts on Chase DeLeo's nice number?
It's irresponsible.
I'll move on. Jaeger Sidorov's Stan account. Is it time for the Ducks to change their goal song because Brohim is starting to become tiresome? Hey, I had a podcast last year where I discussed this. Change it to I Want to Dance with Someone. Give me it.
I'm fine with Brohim.
I'm fine with Brohim, though.
Yeah.
Crazy for Carlson said, I'll piggyback off that question. Do the Ducks need to improve their in-arena entertainment, such as the audio system and the in-house DJ and entertainer like Sammy?
So
I'm gonna go with no comment from me.
Wow, you're going that route.
Yeah.
I'll go yes. Yes, improve it. Please improve it.
Okay. Yegor Sidorov Stan account said, does Corey Perry get booed for siding with the enemy? And yes, I still believe the draft lottery was rigged. No. It's Corey Perry. He'll never get booed.
Oh, by the way, I was going to say that they should improve, but then again, for the Ducks in arena, but then we saw the Sharks in arena feed the other day, and it seems like every arena, they're only...
It's the same.
Let's just point cameras at people. Like, yeah. That's basically the entire strategy, is let's just point cameras at people, because people probably like seeing themselves up on the screen, right? Like, it makes sense. So I don't see teams deviating from that. And I think it kind of works. Like, people seem to be enjoying it. People were going crazy after some of those Ducks goals yesterday.
Yeah. Twitch and YouTube, by the way, I see all your questions. We will get through all of Discord, then we'll go to you guys.
Yeah.
So, Jack Jane said, I'll ask the same question I asked the folks at Lap. What's your hottest Ducks take for the upcoming season? Mine is, I think Nestorenko earned some minutes on the second line.
Wow. That is a hot take, actually.
It's a hot take from Jack.
Yeah, my hot take, I don't know.
My hot take is Trevor Zegras leads the team in points even after sitting out games.
Okay, I have a hot take.
Is that hot? I feel like that's really not that hot.
It's hot-ish.
Okay.
It's hot. I mean, there's other guys that could potentially... I have a hot take. And I have not shared this before because I just thought about it right now. And I may be just saying it to say it.
Okay, that's part of the fun.
Lucas Dostal starts more games than John Gibson.
Ooh.
Yeah, let's go there. And not because of injury. Not because of injury.
Ooh, I like that one.
Let's go. It's his time. He's wearing that number 1 jersey for a reason.
Duck said, was the Hodgson hit on Stone late? I don't know if you saw this hit, but I did. I didn't think it was late. I think Stone was reaching and tapped the puck. Unnecessary maybe in a preseason game. But a guy trying to make his name out there, hitting a guy that is a cup-winning captain for the Vegas Golden Knights and one of the stars of that team. So, unnecessary hit. Clean, though, and not late, in my opinion.
I'll pull it up.
Just, Google Mark Stone hit. And so
see.
Stone's kind of reaching for it a little bit, and the puck's like on his stick when he gets hit, I think. Or it's right next to it.
He got rocked.
Yeah. I think it's a clean hit, though.
I mean, it looks like it was just at the last possible second before it becomes dirty.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, he didn't have the puck. I will say that. He did not.
It's like at his stick. Yeah, fair.
It's away from his stick. Yeah, I mean, he's also like, was that a charging penalty?
That actually is a good point. I didn't even think about that, but potentially.
I mean, he's coming in hot.
Yeah.
Like multiple strides length. So.
Fair. Yeah. Hey, Odiflo said, why do you think Gudas has historically elevated the overall play of his line mates? What aspects of his games do you think are strengths that support this?
I mean, it's like we were talking about. He just kind of does everything well. Like, he's just solid in all facets, and he's not necessarily going to be great at certain things, but it just seems like he's very solid in every facet. And I feel like, especially like if you're an Olen Zellwger, knowing that you have Radko Gudas back there to maybe cover up some mistakes just allows you to play more freely. So I could see that being the case.
Ferdiduck said, Ottawa's... What?
Sorry, I'm just looking at Connor's comment in our chat about how it was a clean... It was... I wouldn't call it clean.
Borderline, and I think I understand why Mark Stone would be frustrated if someone that's not going to be an NHLer throwing that hit on him.
It's the classic like minor leaguer bad hit in preseason on an established NHLer hit.
Yep. Yeah.
And by the way, like, sorry, I'm taking this on a tangent, but...
Okay, go for it.
You know how Elliot Freeman was saying on the 32 Thoughts the other day? He was talking about that hit in the Leafs development camp scrimmage.
Yep.
He was saying... He's like, well, I don't blame guys because they're just trying to make a name for themselves. I'm like, I do blame guys. You don't have to hit, like...
Yep.
It's very rare that a hit like that is actually needed to make the play that you want to make.
Yep.
And I get that it's trying to make an impression, but man, like, especially in the preseason, especially in these games where no points are on the line, it's like
unnecessary.
Just have a little respect for your common man. Like,
don't try to kill someone.
For crying out loud. It's just a bad look to try that hit.
Yeah. Yep. So Ferdiduck said, Ottawa still hasn't signed Shane Pinto and only has $895K in cap space. Are there any Duck Sens trades that make sense in this situation? I'd prefer a trade for Shane Pinto, but alternatively, I could see a trade that helps the Sens clear space while also helping the Ducks.
I feel like he's been on this Shane Pinto thread.
This is an old message that he said, this is still my question, and pointed to it and replied to it so I could ask it.
Well, I haven't been in Discord, so I haven't had time to prepare.
Well,
so
this was one before you even.
I'll hot potato. I'm hot potatoing to you.
I'll take it. I mean, maybe the Ducks could look at sending some of their young. I mean, they have so many defensive prospects, and they don't really have a whole lot of center or wing prospects. And so how old is Shane Pinto now?
He is.
I feel like I know nothing honestly about.
He's
Shane
22.
Pinto.
He's young.
Like, if they want to do that, and maybe you're able to send them a Tristan Leno for him, and it's built around that, like maybe you do that.
Is Tristan Leno's stock really that high though?
I mean, Shane Pinto I wouldn't do that. Never mind. He put up 20 goals last year, but he only had 35 points.
I mean, he scored 20 goals as a 21-year-old in the NHL.
Fair.
That's good.
Fair.
That is good
I don't
stuff.
know if it's necessarily worth giving up a lot for that right now. No. So, never mind. Scratch that. I thought he had scored more overall last year.
Yeah, like maybe a Noah Warren. I don't know. Like this is kind of where you have to maybe think about leveraging some of these maybes for sure things.
Yes.
So
I think Noah Warren in a second.
I mean, that might get it done. But, I'm confused a little bit about where the Sens are headed. They have a new owner. They're kind of built to win now, but they're still in the future a little bit. It's hard to tell. They just gave freaking Jake Sanderson the bag, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up just to see how Shane Pinto was last year in like some more honest metrics.
Are you talking yourself into it? I mean, he's a good player from what I know.
Like I said, I just don't know anything about the player, so I think that's my issue.
You know what? Good on you. I feel like more people should embrace when they don't know something.
Yeah.
Like,
so
don't fake it.
Like the narrative is like he's good, but I'm like I don't know that necessarily. So want to look into it a little bit. But sure,
his tracking data is kind of interesting because he grades out well in the defensive zone, but he's not really like a zone entry guy.
Which is what the Rapham numbers show also, is that he's good defensively, but offensively doesn't generate that much.
But he's got a lot of like good passing numbers, which I like. Like this is why I like the tracking data, even though it's imperfect. But I like seeing. We just don't have a way of measuring passing skill elsewhere outside of assists, and so I mean, that could show that low assist number is not representative of his playmaking. So
Justin Beck said, this question may not have a clear answer and it's long, apologies, but would like for you guys to discuss what do you think the conversations are like between an agent and GM, so let's say Brisson and Verbeek, and why does it take so long? Does the GM call the agent, say this is what we're interested in offering, the agent says what they want, and they just enter a stalemate? We hear rumblings, they are in discussions, but what's being said, and why can't they sit on the phone for however long it takes to get something done? I get that it's a business and they're talking about people's lives and monies, just seems like it could get done sooner.
I mean, I think we're overestimating how much they actually talk.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of quiet time because that's kind of, you're playing chicken in a way. Like you're waiting to see who's going to flinch first.
Yep.
So I don't think that they talk. I don't think they talk every day. I mean, they might. I don't know. That's kind of the whole thing. I don't know. So I just think it's like, hey, we're at this number. Okay, we're at this number. Okay, well, what do you think about this? If we change this other thing, would you come to this number? Would you come down to there? Like that's just. It's not that exciting, honestly.
And probably once they eventually get to the point where they agree on an overall AAV, then they probably sit down and get into the details because they at least have an agreement on average annual value and term, and then it's figuring out the precise details within that of signing bonuses, all that different type of stuff that comes along with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Creeping Sandwiches of Fascism said, what's the happy ending you'd like to see for Dallas Eakins for his hockey career? What do you think he'd be good at?
Well,
motivational speaker.
I could see him being like a player development like consultant or something like that, where he's kind of talking to players about mental attitude, approach, things like that.
Win the day.
Yeah. Have you noticed the Ducks don't have a slogan for their training camp?
Win the day.
It's not on a t-shirt, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Ducks Juggernaut.
I mean, this is not a dig. This is just a comparison. But I think that it's telling that the Ducks training camps in years past under the previous coach were marked by t-shirt slogans, and this year they have the diagrams on the ice showing, hey, the slot is important, like building drills around defending the slot. That is the most drawing and kind of graphic design they've done. And I just feel like that's a good illustration of the priorities of both staffs.
You don't think Greg Cronin's drawn a surfboard on the whiteboard yet?
He might have, as a joke.
Ducks Juggernaut says, is Drysdale or Zegras more likely to be signed before the regular season starts? Odds that both are.
Wait, what? Sorry.
Is Drysdale or Zegras more likely to be signed before the regular season starts? So which one?
I think Drysdale.
I think Drysdale. And then odds that both are. Give me a percentage.
Well, I would say like
15%.
Yeah, I was going to say 15. I'll go 15.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to come to Twitch and YouTube. So please, if you have a question, please throw it in the chat. Add question at the front. I've seen them earlier, but please repost them so that I can find them. But if you're listening to this podcast on your favorite podcast services, you can find us at twitch.tv/CrashPond, where as the season goes on, I know it's a Thursday this week, we will be going live typically on Mondays at 8 p.m. And you can find us there. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free Twitch Prime gaming sub each and every month, and it helps out more than you can imagine. You can be just like, we had a bunch actually happen within this past week. Heart and Soul Strong subscribed with Prime. MM1K1 subscribed with Prime. Our good friend Lou subscribed for his 60th month. So wow. Thank you so much. Ducks Juggernaut subscribed for 12 months. Shoegaze Dragon Georgie subscribed for 55 months. So thank you to all of you. And then you can also find us at youtube.com/CrashPond, where you can find our fun videos. Felix has been putting up fun videos breaking down different players. We now have YouTube shorts of the podcast up there. TikTok, there's also that now, and Instagram Reels. We're throwing out things up everywhere, so find us at all those different places, but YouTube for the live stream of the show, where you can get your questions in. So B-Dolls had a question saying, I know Pat Verbeek doesn't like taking shots on waiver guys, but Ty Smith is on waivers. Would you claim better than Vakanainen and White, he thinks?
So I don't think so. There's just too many D-men in there right now.
Yep.
Also, like, Ty Smith got waived. Like, maybe that's a commentary about where he's at right now. I don't know.
Yep, agreed. Ducks said in our YouTube chat, do the Ducks need to acquire a pure goal scorer in the near future to complete our future top six?
Do they need to acquire... I mean, is Alex Killorn that?
I mean, kind of.
I think he is supposed to be the scorer. But, I mean, at some point you do need guys who can, put the puck in the net. But I think that they can become a team that scores a lot of goals just by committee. Like, there's only so many pure goal scorers in the NHL that are also great all-around players, and those guys tend to be superstars. Otherwise, you have to build an actual system that produces offense, and I think that that's the model that the Ducks should and are following.
Yeah. Ducks also had a question, which, if any, 2023 Ducks draft pick, other than Leo, which draft pick makes the biggest jump in their development and production in their junior leagues?
The 2023 class?
Yes. Outside of Carlson.
Dang.
I think Petrie.
Interesting. There's a lot of guys.
Or Dionisio, however you pronounce it.
There's a lot of guys you can choose from. I mean, one guy I really enjoyed watching was Nico Mijatovic. So I'm going to go with him. But I feel like any of those guys,
Carey Terrance,
yeah, like I think they're all in for big years.
Yep. Let's see. We got this question from Twinkie Boy said, at what point this upcoming season do we start hearing rumblings of who our future captain might end up being? I don't think there's gonna be any rumblings. Like, I think if they were gonna name a captain, it would have happened.
Yeah, I mean, they said they're not gonna do it, so let's not waste our own time here.
Yep. And let's see. I think that's going to do it. If there's any more questions, please throw them in the chat. But I'm not seeing any more kind of popping up in the newer area. So, we just got one from Ducks Dragon saying, what's going on with Braden Tracy and Jacob Pro? Are they still relevant in the discussion of development?
That is a great question. And I want to dig more into, how Jacob Pro played the other day, because I didn't really get a chance to look at it that closely. But they're still in there, right? Like, they're in there until they're not. And, you don't want to give up on guys until they've shown that there's no reason to believe in them anymore. And, like, I think that they both still have things that they can bring. So let's give them a chance here. But yeah, I think they're still in the picture. The thing is that their threshold is a lot lower now because they just have to play well in San Diego and they're up. Like the other guys that could potentially jump them, they're still years away from making the NHL, right? I mean, or they're just now joining the AHL. Like these guys have a lower barrier of entry, I would say.
Yep. And we actually have a couple questions come in as we were answering that one. So Michael B said, thoughts on Cooney and Edom so far, better than Zilch and Wood?
Yes. I mean, is it even close?
No. I think Edom has some growing pains, but I think he's providing good insights, a new voice, a fresh voice that can really relay information in a way that Dan Wood could not. So I think it's been better.
And I think the other guy, the Cooney's just a solid. And I think that what I like about Cooney, and this is no shot at Andy Zilch, but Andy Zilch is a very like polished commentator. But sometimes I think what makes a good play-by-play guy is being able to inject a little emotion, right? Like it's a fine line, but some of the best play-by-play guys of all time, or at least that people think are the best, are really good at that. Like you think of Doc Emmerich, right? And I think that Cooney does a better job of kind of bringing a little emotion into the game. And I think Emerson Edom does that as well. Like you can tell that Emerson Edom is just having fun doing this.
He's just having a good time. He's enjoying life.
Yeah, and I think that he also understands the game. He's a more recent player, right?
Yeah,
and
he's a coach.
Yeah, like I think he's much more involved in the actual sport, and so he has better commentary. He's just learning his own
how to
game.
How to convey that on a play-by-play or color commentating basis. But you hear him talk about high-low plays, talk about little things getting off the board, and those little insights that you didn't get, quite frankly, from the Ducks broadcast in the past however many years. And so those types of insights, I think, are exactly what you're looking for. Where
are those two the future on the TV broadcast?
I mean, my whole thing with broadcast is you either need to be entertaining or you need to teach me something.
Yeah.
And I think that Edom does a nice job of blending those two.
Yeah, I may listen to more radio broadcasts this year. I might put it over the TV. We should probably mention that the Ducks announced their TV schedule today. Yeah. I mean, you were saying that wouldn't happen. So.
I did not say that wouldn't happen. I just said it's interesting, and I'm curious if Bally is trying to get out of the contract.
Yeah. I mean,
because the final year of their deal.
Michael in our chat saying the difference between Edom and Dan Wood is astounding, and it's like, yes.
I was not a Dan Wood fan.
I would listen to the radio broadcast, and they would put me to sleep last year. It was just so, and again, it's nothing against those guys personally. It was just so old school,
generic
90s kind of just that, I don't know what to call it, the old boys club style of commentary, right? And it's I think that
Steve Carroll I think is still going to be doing radio calls.
Yeah. But you just need more energy in there. You need more passion, you need more intellect, and it's just it's just not the best.
Let's blitz through these last couple questions and get on out of here. Sampre Ducks 47 says, does Max Jones have a spot in our future?
Sure.
Maybe as a fourth liner. And
he's going to have competition at some point.
Duck says, does Max Jones crack 35 points this year?
No.
I'm going to go no. And then Austin said, question, which active or former Ducks player does Tristan Leno's game most resemble, comparing from playstyle only, not skill / base potential based?
Was it you that said Sammy Vatanen?
No, I think Zellweger's Sammy Vatanen.
Oh, I think Zellweger's a different beast, but
okay.
He kind of reminds me of Leno. Kind of reminds me of Sammy Vatanen a little bit.
Okay, fair enough. I don't have a good answer for this one. And then M Young in our Twitch chat said, "Who has the brightest future of these three for us? Zellweger, Mintyukov, or Lacombe?" I think Mintyukov.
I think if Zellweger hits, he does, but I'm just not sure if he will. And I'm not saying not sure. I don't think. I just legitimately don't know. So I think your pick is the safest pick.
Fair. I think Mintyukov has a really high ceiling.
He does, and I think he's showing an ability to have a nice floor too.
Yep. All right. I think that's going to do it for us because I thought we were only going to do an hour, and we're almost at an hour and a half.
I mean, I got nowhere to be right now, so
my bed's the place I want to be. So
I haven't slept in 2 days basically. So I'm like, yeah, what's another 30 minutes? Whatever.
Yeah, that's how it should work.
When you're this far down into the hole, it's like, well, what's the point of climbing out anymore? I'll just stay down here for a little longer.
I don't think that's how it works in the best
It's not.
way.
But when your brain is just like sleep deprived and addled by stress, like this is what happens.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
To each their own.
I mean, no, this is not good. Don't let me become this.
Okay. Let's get out of here so you can go to bed then.
Last night I was on the phone with my partner for our brief, and I was just like, we were just talking, and I was just like, I don't actually feel like I'm not even putting sentences together anymore. I'm just like existing. And that's what's happening right now.
You texted me at 3 a.m. saying about to go to bed.
No, it was 3:30.
Sorry.
Give me my 30-minute credit.
I saw that when I woke up at 4 a.m. to go to the bathroom, as I had been asleep since like 10:30 or 11. And I was like, oh no, I've been asleep for so long. And
I texted you at 3:36 a.m. I don't know why I told you that.
I don't either.
I texted you
This shows people our relationship.
I texted you that, and I texted my girlfriend that, so I don't...
I guess that's where I'm at.
I don't know. I think I was just so loopy. Anyway, probably should... I'm definitely not helping my case here with whatever is happening. Anyway, thank you for listening, everyone. We're going to wrap this thing up before we just completely lose our minds. If you want to help support the show, check out our Patreon page. Go to patreon.com/crashthepond. The link is on both of our Twitters, so you can just go there and click on it and join. For $1 a month, you get access to our patrons-only Discord server. Great place to connect with other diehard Ducks fans. And then for $5 a month, you get 2 bonus podcasts on top of the Discord community. And with those podcasts, you get us kind of going a little bit more off script, a little bit more unfiltered, but also if you want to hear us talk more in depth about the Ducks, but also maybe hear us talk about other NHL teams, about the rest of the league, we are going to be recording a mammoth NHL season preview episode tomorrow night. So
two-parter.
Yeah, 2-parter, and it's going to be released. I don't know how we'll release it. Probably
we'll release it Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, we'll release it Friday and Saturday, but you'll be able to just space it out, listen to it at your leisure. But we're going to go over all the teams, so it should be a lot of fun. That's over at patreon.com/crashthepond. You can also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We greatly appreciate that. You can follow us and subscribe on Spotify. You can leave us feedback there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I think tonight our live viewing numbers are being bolstered by some new faces watching from YouTube. I think we were about like over half of people that were watching live were from YouTube. So that's kind of cool.
Which is new for us. Twitch was always our steadfast, and now it's moving.
So youtube.com/crashthepond. Subscribe there. You've got the podcast that you can watch, that you can listen to at your own leisure. You've got the shorts. So if you just want bite-sized little clips of us, our biggest points in the pod or some funny moments. And then we've got the video breakdowns that I've been doing. So check that out, subscribe. And if you watch the videos and you aren't subscribed, do subscribe, because we can see the stats. It's not 100%. Let's get it to 100%. It helps us out a lot. And outside of that, just follow us on Twitter. Jake is on Twitter at ReindeerGames91. I'm on Twitter, search Felix Sicard. And on that note, thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging with us until the bitter end and our craziness. And we will talk to you next week. Have a good one.
Bye.